a Q&A session about productive change. And I want to start out with telling everyone I'm looking for questions in the Q&A section. So please ask me anything there. I'm more than happy to answer them under the guise that I don't know what I don't know. So as I answer these questions, please keep in mind that these are from my perspective. I cannot understand what anyone, your perspective is unless we share our ideas. So hopefully we can learn something. And that's the key initiative, is that I want everyone to learn from one another, to share their experience, their perspective, and just want to go with the caveat that in no way do I think that I can understand where any one of you is coming from unless we communicate and figure that out. So put your Q&A in there. I can see them loading up right now. Let's get started. No time like the present. Put your questions into the Q&A section. Starting off, here we go. How can we create change when people are so resistant to change? Well, people, I always joke around, the only people that like change is a wet baby. And the reason is that uncertainty lies within change, right? When things don't change, we're certain about those, and that people are afraid of what they don't know. And people can either be positive about the future or negative about the future, determined upon three things. One, their conscious perspective of things, right? Are they training themselves to find the light, the love, and the lessons in everything moving forward? Subconsciously, there's 40,000 of the same thoughts there that teach us that we access of whether or not the future is going to be good or bad. And then even more complex, our personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions, our DNA, our quantum being, who we are, that has been handed down by generation to generation, at least 4 generations, great grandparents to grandparents to parents to you. All 3 of those help us in understanding, pursuing in a consistent, persistent manner the potential of change. Some people do better with it than others. If you take into context what I'm talking about, we have 2 things going on in the world today that are creating accelerated change. One is a pandemic, and 2 is the exposure of the racism that existed over centuries of time. Both have ancestral DNA. They have ancestral energy to it that even the people that carry it can't fully understand. And this is why we're so resistant to change. So the bigger question beyond how can we create change when people are so resistant to change is we have to educate people on practicing ending fear. The less fear you have, the less resistant you'll be to change. Right? If we're not afraid, then change would be for what? Acceleration, growth, for the positive. And so what we need to do is help each other practice ending fear. So to understand that fear is created as a resistance in itself. It resists the lessons that we're learning, the light, the love, to what we're always connected to, this unbelievable source of power that we're all connected to. And then on the other side, it's the resistance of being connected to everything and everyone. So we have a tendency to want to separate ourselves, create a need to be inferior, a need to be superior, angry, upset, guilty, resentful, offended, etc. And so we have to understand one thing, that it is practice. Somebody wrote there, fear is false evidence appearing real. It is, except for it is real in the pragmatic world, and people see it as pragmatic and materialized as real. So what we need to do is help people practice ending it. But most importantly, I think taking a step back and realizing that we're in a marathon, that time itself is an accelerant, in meaning that we expect change to happen overnight, and it doesn't. We want it to happen at the best way at the perfect time. We want it to happen rapidly and accurately, but it won't happen in the time context that we give it, because we can't see change. We can't see the incremental nature of acceleration and exponential growth. That's inclusive in business, and in life, in all these different areas. And we have so many different institutions that are under pressure to change. Our judicial institutions, our financial institutions, our educational institutions, all of these different institutions are under compressed uncertainty. They're in compressed time of change. So we need more than ever to practice ending fear, right? We need to stop creating interference and corrosion between each other and between this great source of light, love, and lessons. And we have to allow people to share their experiences, their perspective, so that we can come closer together in understanding. It's not going to happen if we dictate our experience onto others. And so if a statement means something to you, then share why that statement means that to you and educate everyone on why or what a better statement would be. And I think this is occurring a lot, especially in social media, where people have no intent other than to create a bond. And then there's a separation that occurs because people aren't taking the time to understand and allow and to teach why some of the reasons you personally believe that this means this, and that why this would be or create more interference. But you don't want to create more interference. You want to create less interference by creating alignment to your perspective. All right, so let's practice ending fear. That's how we can create less resistance to change. Bob Kennedy, we've witnessed this before, many times before, Bob. In April 1992, which I was there, the riots and protests after Rodney King verdict, yet no change. Now, it's Bob's perception that there's been no change since 1992. I would suggest that why don't we sit down and actually look at the data and see what changes have occurred, good and bad, or productive or less productive, since 1992 in order to effectuate whether it is. The incident that occurred is similar to the exact incident that occurred with Rodney King, just a different name. But has there been productivity since 1992 in the last 18 years? 28 years. You teach us lessons repeat themselves until we learn them. Yes. What can we as a society do differently this time to see change? Well, one, let's see where there is change and where change is needed. Let's look at the capabilities that each of us have accordingly, and then use those capabilities. Use the skills that each of us have that have the intent to create a better world, to create equality or oneness or whatever your goal is, and use your capabilities in a consistent, persistent manner. Never before, I think, as the biggest lesson that I teach people about quitting, right? Segmentation is such an important thing, because I will tell you that 99% of the people quit when they're 25% of the way there because they don't see change. And then of that 1%, 99% of the 1% quit at 50% of the way because they still don't see change. And so they start voting for what other people think and electing what other people think in their life. And then we never get to 100% of the way there because you're dealing with the 1% of the 1%. So you have 1% of the 1% that are consistent, persistent in the pursuit of the potential of this equality and oneness and fairness and justice. Then you have the 1% of the 1% that are also trying to stop it, right? Intentionally stop it. They want to create divisiveness. They want to create separation. They want to create inequality. They want to create fear. And then the rest of the 99.98% of the people are stuck in the middle because they quit. So let's first find commitments for people that have capabilities, relying on their skills, right? Whatever skills they may be, their knowledge and their desire that we must be what we can be. We can't quit on this time. It can't go another 28 years and have change that is not apparent, right? I'm sure there's been change, but once again, so many people have quit on, maybe some of you don't even know who Rodney King is. You're gonna have to Google it. That's how much they've quit on it. We need to remember. That means come together, but it also means to be aware of the past so that we can learn from it. Life is about lessons. The lessons will keep on coming until we learn them. They will result in pain. Pain is an indicator. physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, financial pain until we learn those. That's the indicator. And right now there's a lot of pain and we need to heal it with consistent, persistent behavior. So let's use productive mechanisms. So if Dave Meltzer says something wrong, and I'm going to give an example, and hopefully it won't light up in the chat, but if I say Black Lives Matter, I believe that. And some people, when I say that, get really upset with me because Black Lives Matter means something else to them. I had a police officer friend from high school go ballistic on me for what he believed Black Lives Matters meant. Then on the other side, I said, well, all lives matter. And, I believe both. I believe we better focus in on Black Lives Matter right now because that's the most initial change to get to all lives matter because there's an inequality in it. But people went ballistic on me when I said all lives matter, that I was dismissing my belief that Black Lives Matter by saying that. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the effect of that. And I appreciate the people that, think that this means that or that. But the point is, let's figure out what capabilities people have in order to make the changes, the productive changes that are necessary. So if I'm this influencer that can go to the police chief and find out, number one, how is it that a police officer can have 18 complaints against them and still be on duty and holding a gun? That's beyond me. That's something that I have the capability to make a change. And I hope that people will support me in trying to make that change, regardless of whether I say it's because Black Lives Matter or all lives matter. If I can effectuate getting together all the police chiefs and making sure that this doesn't happen again, that we have the appropriate reviews to make sure that bad police officers are not on duty, just like bad judges should not be on duty, and bad lawyers and bad mortgage brokers and bad priests, bad people. We can have systems in place that don't allow this to happen. And this is a capability that I have. And so everyone has their perspective. Let's take this positive approach so that it doesn't repeat again. Don't quit at 25%. Decide what you want to do and effectuate your capabilities towards what you want to do, towards the positive, productive change. All right. Dustin Cota, how do you decide which path is right for you? Great question. This is true with everything. I'm going to try to tie in life beyond the incongruencies that exist today. I take inventory of my values every day. Now, my personal values, experiential values, my giving values, and my receiving values every single day. And I'm not afraid to be a hypocrite. Right? I'm not afraid. I did an IG live today to discuss some of these matters, and it was a great IG. And someone's like, well, when did you start talking about this? Number one, what difference does it make when I started? Right? What capabilities do I have to create change is what you should be asking. But let me just tell you this, right? Whether or not, go look, right? My business partner is Warren Moon. We've been fighting this cause together since the time he wasn't allowed to play quarterback in the NFL, right? 6 years he had to spend in Canada because of the color of his skin, right? Years later, I'm reading the scouting reports, making sure that someday that there would be equal opportunity for everyone in every position, because little boys and girls can look up to this role of leadership and say to themselves, I can be a leader, right? I can do that, whatever it is. But that doesn't matter. If I decided today that I was wrong, I've never done anything in the past, but starting today, I've just learned a lesson. Now I want to help me and create productive change. You are allowed to be a hypocrite. You're allowed to say, you know what? I never thought of that. I'm not an African-American. I'm not a woman. I'm not tall. I'm not whatever it is. I've learned something. I'm going to change my values. So let's be forgiving of people and let's encourage people to learn so that they do change. Take inventory of your values every day and don't be afraid of being a hypocrite. Change your values, grow and accelerate. That's what it means if you're making decisions on your values and change. Ashley Ferguson, welcome. How can we create more opportunities for minorities? Great question. This is productive. What it be executive seats, business funding, or higher paying jobs? Look, in the past, in America, at least I'll speak to, because I don't know the world politics and socioeconomic systems as well. there's reparations that we should have, right? We should open up our education in all of those areas. And we should be able to afford minorities opportunities to develop their skills, to develop their knowledge, so that they feel inspired instead of, what's reverse of inspired? They feel dejected and angry, right? There's just no hope. Whatever, my vocabulary is not reaching to that word of not feeling any chance of being educated. Look, wherever we have such access to education right now, online, in schools, wherever it is, we should be providing. And I'm the chief chancellor of Junior Achievement University, and take in so many different types of people around the world, all types of minorities, to build the mentorship, the education, the skills, so that our future has everybody represented. So we need to create opportunities through education and development of skills, of knowledge, and also looking at this inspiration and desire, so that we create hope more than anything else, so that people take advantage of the opportunities and don't just think it's some, just, my vocabulary is killing me. It just doesn't think it's just some program that's there for nobody else and it doesn't work or it's not available. George, how do I know who to trust when seeking service providers, Kickstarter managers, CPA, patent lawyers, et cetera? And how can I move money as a primary consideration? Little bit more off topic, but let me look here. How do I know who to trust when seeking service providers? Once again, it actually applies to the question above about knowing your values. For me, money doesn't have to be a primary consideration. Only in the consideration if you're in business, that you have to stay in business, and money's the key. It's the heartbeat to staying in business. But know your values. Align the Kickstarter manager, the CPA, the patent lawyer. Ask the difficult questions. And a lot of times we don't, right? Instead, we just get mad or we just don't do it. We lose hope, we lose faith. What we need to do is ask the difficult questions. Let's be more interested than interesting on how people are aligned with our values, so we can take coordinated, collaborative action in order to effectuate change. Brad, have you been supporting the BLM movement? This may be off topic, but this is a changing on entrepreneurship and business. How do you not live in guilt? Well, first of all, I'm doing the best that I can, and I've been supporting the best that I can this movement before it was called the BLM movement. And my own, as I stated, work history and social activist history will speak for itself, but it's irrelevant, because the question is, what am I going to do today? And I work really hard, by the way. I've lived in guilt my entire life. It's an ego-based emotion. I have a mom who's a third-degree black belt in the martial art of Jewish guilt. Guilt creates interference and corrosion. It's an ego-based emotion. So part of my practice of ending fear is to practice ending guilt, right? I am focused on clearing that connection so that I can be the most productive, meaning provide the most value and service to others, giving my life away to others, and be the most accessible, not only being accessible to others to give my life away, but also accessing what I want so I can give more away, and being gracious, not guilty. Be gracious, not guilty. Learn to find the light, the love, and the lessons of what you do have, what superpowers we do have, what capabilities we do have, instead of feeling where we have shortages, voids, obstacles, and lack, where scarcity exists. Guilt, worry are wasted emotions. Let's put our energy and focus in the right perspective. But yes, I live with guilt every single day, and I practice ending guilt and resentment and offense. I practice ending anger, frustration, fear, the best that I can, to, instead of accelerate in the wrong direction, to create resistance, voids, and shortages in my life, that I accelerate towards the values that I decide and take inventory at the beginning of my day. Great question, Brad. J.R. Velasic. When do you know when you are ready to present yourself to the world, to advertise post self-branding? How much content should you have built up before you go live? Go live now. Build up your content, hopefully for the betterment of others, but you should be like, there's 4.4 billion people. This is the 1% of the 1% rule. If you literally, I told myself when I started, I think there's 4.2 billion people available. And I said to myself, man, if 4.1 billion of those people don't know who I am or don't even like me, but 0.1% of them are empowered with the values that I believe will help create productive change and value and happiness in their life by making a lot of money, helping a lot of people, and having a lot of fun and being happy, I will have had a greater impact than almost anyone ever to live. And so you start now. Go ahead. If you're going to do content live, make sure you're capturing it, modifying it, amplifying it, and perpetuating it in the appropriate manner in order to attract the most amount of people at your frequency. Your signal will strengthen. You'll learn what your spectrum is, who resonates with your frequency and who just hates you. And then also how clear your message is. So many times, it's not what I say, it's what you hear. So many times I mean with great intent to help, and I end up hurting. And that's in my personal life, that's in my public life, but I have to learn. And that pain that I get when I make that mistake, I get in and I learn those lessons so I don't do it again. And hopefully I communicate more, capture more, and amplify more of that, etc. Good question, JR. Jesse, how to spread positivity at this time? It seems like most people don't want to hear that stuff right now and want to promote collective outrage. Anger, outrage, it's fine. What I say, it's you can't you can't tell someone that's depressed or anxious or even suicidal, hey, look at the glass half full. You cannot tell somebody that's pissed off or has outrage, hey, I'm fighting for you. That's not it. What you need to do is two things: understand and create a plan. Understand and create a plan. So what we should be doing is focusing on being more interested than interesting, asking questions. Why do you feel this way? Explain to me what's happened. Explain to me why these words mean that to you. And would you allow me to explain what I meant to say or what the intent of what I said was, so that you can help me articulate my intent in a more clear manner, so that we can clear the interference and the outrage between us. And together we can collaborate. Together we can work together to create change, because you have said that's your intent of being outraged. And that collective outrage, there's collective outrage in all types of different segments. There's not 100% of the people on earth that believe the same thing and have experienced the same thing and have the exact same perspective. But we have to find the commonality and alignment with those values, and then create understanding to clear that outrage. But you can't just fight it with positivity. You can't just say, come on, everybody, let's go, let's be positive. No, you have to go through a process of understanding. You have to realize, take time out of the equation, allow it to happen at the right way at the perfect time. Don't try to force things. What you resist, persist. Right? Let's create understanding so that we can create a plan and knock things off one at a time. Let's create institutional changes with our financial system, our educational system, our judicial system. All of these things can be changed, but we have to work together and figure out and understand the best way with the capabilities of the people involved in order to effectuate it. And we have to allow the collective outrage to dissipate and be heard. And then a plan needs to be created. John Rawlings, at a point in my life where my want to start my business has prevented me from stabilizing my life. I am now a recently divorced father carrying the weight of our marriage debt. Do you think it is wise to focus on starting a business at this point, or focus on paying off the debt so that I can create a more stable life for my daughter? I'm leaning towards a higher paying job for a while until the debt is cleared and I have cash stacked up. Thoughts? I'm a both person, John. I've always been a both person. People always have those choices. Go secure a high paying job and start working on your new business. Push yourself to be efficient, effective, and statistically successful. Learn to take inventory of your values, ask for help, be a student in your calendar, do it now, and practice ending fear. Look at the math of what you're doing. Challenge yourself to be the best that you can be by enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. Overlap the time, create more effectiveness, efficiencies, and statistical success in what you do. Look to see what vertebrae or a spine is created by the higher paying job. I put the highest paying opportunity at the top of my spine, and then I allow other opportunities below that that have similar capabilities that are necessary to effectuate that revenue. And then I create vertebrae where I can create additional revenue by handing off opportunities and helping others. Be more than happy to explain that in more detail, but both is my answer. Challenge yourself to do both. You can do it. I've seen people do extraordinary things. Doing both of those things is not impossible. Make sure you know the legs feed the lion or the legs feed the wolves, whatever the saying is that Herb Brooks had. Make sure that you're focusing the majority of your attention and intention on the thing that's paying you most, because the more you receive, the better capability you'll have at doing all the others. My friend Anonymous, I know you've been partners with Warren Moon. You've been fighting for over three decades for African American quarterbacks to be on an even playing field. What are your thoughts there? I think Warren and I both have been fighting more for just quarterbacks, right? We've been focused on creating, and making a difference so that people can see there are opportunities. People can have hope and faith, that people understand that we all need to work together, and that whether you're African American or white or Chinese or whatever you are, it doesn't matter. This needs to be a capability. It has to be the content of your character, not the color of your skin. It's the year I was born, and that's what Warren and I have been fighting for. Him much more than me. He's had death threats, right? He was the one that's been nervous every time he ever got pulled over, or had tried to share with me the experiences of what it's like to know that you're the best at something and nobody will even give you a chance. I have no idea what that feels like. I can listen to it, I can try to understand, but I couldn't imagine the man 63 years old, what it has been like for those 63 years growing up in inner city LA, not being able to go to college originally to play quarterback, not being able to get the opportunities all his life. Crazy. But I'll keep fighting. I haven't quit. I didn't quit at 25%. I'm not going to quit at 50 or 75. And Danny Siegel, as a white Jewish man with African American family and friends, how do I steer clear of the distraction of today's current events? If we stay quiet about hashtag BLM, we are bad. If we support it, we don't know how it feels to be Black. And if we voice our truths about hashtag ALM, then we get bashed. Isn't the bigger picture about all lives matter? Not just humans, but animals, plants, crystals, water, etc. Appreciate any insights and advice to help me deal with this disturbing distraction. I think it's more than a distraction. I think we have to create an understanding, right? I have heard from my African American and white friends that all lives matter is offensive because it dismisses Black lives matter. And I've heard that lives matter offends certain people because of historically people that have used that cause as a veil to do bad things. I think we need to ask somebody before we get mad at them when they use either one of those terms, what capabilities you have and what's your plan, and how can I help understand what you mean by that so I can help effectuate that plan in the best manner without creating interference or voids, meaning without creating fear, the need to be offended, the need to be right, the need to be resentful, all of these things that are happening for like really good people like you, Danny, that just want to help. And we get caught up into what you see as distractions, but what other people have lived with for 60, 70, 80, 90 years. And they would be offended by it being a distraction. Right? This is a change. And I know what you mean by distraction because you have family that's African American. You have friends that are African Americans. You want to get to the point and make the change happen. Let's slow down. Let's be ferocious Buddhas. Let's stop. When we're in fear-based consciousness, let's use our biggest effort, our free will, just to stop and to understand what's going on so that we all can breathe and roll in the same trajectory and realize where are our superpowers, where are our similarities, where do we all want the same things, and if we differ in our perspective, why? Why are we differing in our perspectives so that we can start taking an evaluation according to our values and expressing those the best that we can and allowing people to vent their fears, frustration, and outrage, allow them to be heard so that we can learn. Life is about lessons. The lessons will keep on coming until we learn them. Life is about lessons. The lessons will keep on coming until we learn them. Pain is an indicator. It's an indicator that you haven't learned the lesson. Physical, emotional, spiritual, financial pain is an indicator you haven't learned the lesson. Let's learn the lessons together. Let's speed this up. Jordan McConnell, accountability is one of your biggest themes. Yes, one of my 4 biggest. Gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration. How do you deal with folks that do not believe in personal accountability / responsibility and instead practice scapegoating? Well, first of all, I teach them the difference between accountability and responsibility. Responsibility and liability can lie within a social contract, a legal contract, a systematic responsibility or liability that exists from some sort of agreement that we've made that everybody's going to vote for this, or this is how the system works, and we all agree. Accountability is a higher source, right? So if I'm sitting in a stop sign and somebody smashes into the back of me, cancel, because they're texting, I am not liable. I am not responsible for that accident. According to California DMV, the driver's codes, they are responsible and liable for the damages that and it has occurred. I also want to look at the accountability. Accountability says, what did I do to attract this to myself, someone doing this to me? And what am I supposed to learn from it? Because I know life is about the lessons. The lessons will keep on coming till I learn them. Pain is an indication I haven't learned a lesson. So I have to take both analysis because I live at this pragmatic world where people are responsible and liable for what they do. But I also live with faith, and I try to blend my faith in there, and I ask myself, how am I accountable? And this distinction is the first step, Jordan, in learning, how to deal with the practice of scapegoating. A scapegoat is someone that lives in blame, shame, and justification. So when someone's living in blame, shame, and justification, they are projecting their fear. And so what we have to do is go to understanding. Instead of creating more fear, we need to learn what they're afraid of and why. This is not an easy practice. This takes one of the ferocious Buddha to stop and say, hey, tell me why you feel that way. Or why are you feeling that way? If you're a parent, you are practicing every day scapegoating, learning about, she did it, he did it. This is why. What are you afraid of? Right? If you can teach people to be accountable, they will be responsible. They will take on the liability that they will because they will feel in control. Accountability, ironically, it has a counterintuitive nature of being in control. So understand the distinctions of accountability, liability, and responsibility, and allow the understanding and questioning of being more interested than interesting of those that are scapegoats that literally live in blame, shame, and justification. Do not expect these types of enlightenments to occur overnight, right? Use the analogous relationship that you may have with your parents or being a parent yourself, and understand how long will it take my child to learn accountability. This is a long marathon that we're on, but progress, not perfection. We're doing nobody any good if we don't progress. And that's why we're having this discussion about productive change and progress. How do you truly find your purpose? This is really an interesting question to me, because I think it lies in the center of our problems today. Most people don't know their purpose, or they're denying their purpose because they're afraid of learning their what. The true purpose that everyone has, that I believe, is to help that which we're connected to. Our true purpose is we want to help that which we feel connected to. Now, some of us feel connected to more, some of us could feel connected to less. But we know our purpose is to help somebody or something or someone that we're connected to. And that literally is what drives us. If we're just driven for ourselves, we won't be inspired. We'll be motivated. I had Jen Welter, the first woman NFL coach, on my IG Live today, and I thought she said it best. If this was about me, I'd be motivated some days, but not every day. But when you're purposeful about helping something bigger than you, something connected to you, that's relative to you, according to your values, then that's your purpose. But you need to know your what. So let's look at our what by looking and taking inventory of our values, personal, experiential, giving and receiving values, and not being afraid to be a hypocrite, and changing our what. I want to be a doctor. No, I want to be a lawyer. No, I want to sell legal research. No, I want to be a VC. Nope, I want to be a sports agent. Nope, that's perfect. I had the same purpose. Same purpose. From the time I was 5 years old, I wanted to help the people I love. Initially, it was my mom. I wanted to buy her house and a car. That was my purpose. But it kept extending to more and more, to my community, to my state, to my country, and the world. And I continually grow, accelerate for that purpose of helping other people, something bigger than me that's connected to me. Ashley Ferguson, how should one kindly address racial issues in the workspace? Great question. For example, a coworker repeats a racial joke they repeated from the stand-up special. How do you approach them to get them to understand that's racist and not cool or right? Just because someone else said the joke doesn't mean it's okay for them to repeat it. How are you stern to allow them to see where you're coming from without getting defensive or coming across too harsh for the workplace? This has been a problem for years and years and years. Standing up in the workplace without creating more interference, voids, and shortages, right? Without creating some sort of work group corrosion. This takes practice. And so actually what I would do is try to work from an understanding of, number one, pulling that person aside so that you don't create a collective energy around that person, but pulling them aside individually with no anger, but pulling them aside and explaining why repeating those type of separations, those type of fear-based jokes are inappropriate, and how they make you feel and why. It'll take practice, but I think everyone has to stand up. This is something, I hope that it doesn't come upon you, Ashley. I hope other employees will pull them aside. In this situation, where were the other police officers? Where are they accountable for not stopping this? It's one thing to have a bad egg, right? 18 complaints. You can't stop that guy. He shouldn't have been in that job. But what about the other guys? What work group? Why aren't they speaking up? Why aren't they speaking up? We all need to speak up. So when people have, and there's probably no bad intent, right? This is ignorance, but it's much more powerful when your coworkers stand up and say, hey, not appropriate. This is not a productive thing to say. We don't want to make people laugh at the expense of other people to perpetuate a separation, a fear-based acknowledgement. We don't want to do that. So hopefully, maybe we can educate other people as well to speak up. Max Massbaum, what does it take for an inspiring entrepreneur to be a successful entrepreneur in today's world? Well, first of all, you have to define success. For me, success is defined as happiness. Happiness is defined as the enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. So that's my success. In that potential, I want the potential of how much money I can make, how many people I can help, and how much fun or happiness I can create. Right. So I have my main mission of empowering over 1 billion people to be happy. I'm going to do that through making a lot of money and helping a lot of people. And that's why I do these free trainings every Friday. That's why I do give away my book. By the way, please reach out to me. I want to give my book, Connected to Goodness, to everybody for free. It has some great key elements and principles to effectuate connecting to each other to create productive change. So just reach out to me. You can DM me at David Meltzer. You can text me at 949-298-2905. Email me at david@dmeltzer.com. Hopefully they can put that in the chat, but everybody can have my book for free. Um, Please reach out to me. I'd love to give it to you. Anonymous again. That's a very popular name today. I agree about the need to change our educational system. What are some changes you think need to be made? Well, first of all, I think a lot of it needs to be put online. I think we need more service. I think there needs to be a 2-year service requirement. I think people can get the social aspects out of college that they want uh, by having a 2-year requirement of service. I think the online specificity of allowing access to people, that have expertise in the field. I'd rather learn social media and marketing from Gary Vaynerchuk than some professor that's 70 years old that's never used Facebook. I Personal choice, but I think we need to lower the cost of education and provide free education for all people, especially minorities. We need to do all of these things, and we can find purpose for those big buildings. I think on the sports side as well, we need to understand the marketing of what and who's being marketed and reward those people that are bringing in the dollars. I think we need to provide education after it as an option, meaning that if you want to play college basketball or football or run track, then and you get a scholarship, then you come to make money for yourself in the school by performing athletically, and you can take as many classes as you want during that period, but you're guaranteed 4 years afterwards of pure education without having any athletic requirement, no matter how many years your career goes. So if Tom Brady wants to go back to Michigan, he should be allowed to go back to Michigan, even though he's 50 years old. That's just my opinion. Those are some of the changes. I would love to make, these trainings available, entrepreneurial trainings available to every college as part of their curriculum, and they don't have to pay me tuition. I don't care. But I promise you, I can teach them a lot about raising money, scaling a business, how to sell, pitching, all the things that may be necessary, whether you go to Harvard or some other school or Columbia even. All the schools that rejected me, by the way. All right. Anyway, Joseph Jankowski, you have mentioned stop, drop, and roll when negative thoughts arise. Can you describe how you implement this strategy in more depth? I'm doing better with being kind to my future self, but still working on it. Me too. Thank you, David. So identifying when we're an ego-based emotion is so important, especially today. This is one of the things that I mentioned earlier. So the first thing is go ahead and write down a list, right? I can read them off to you because I memorize my list because I want to make sure that my thermostat to life is not my bank account. It's how I feel. So if something makes me feel bad, I know that it's creating resistance to the connection I have to what's making me feel good. And so that I identify the need to be right, which is something that I fight with every day, the need to be offended, the need to be resentful, the need to be separate, the need to feel inferior, superior, not worthy, angry, frustrated, all of these guilty, worrying, all these different feelings. I identify and memorize those. And then anytime they pop up in my life, I stop. I cancel them. Dropping means to go to a place, a higher frequency, where we can reason the whys, the understanding, be more interested, where we can talk and communicate without interference, without that collective outrage that we have. And then I make a plan to roll in the right direction, utilizing my values and the values of the people and the ideas that I have and the content that I consume to effectuate positivity, to effectuate productive change, to effectuate value, and to be in a place also where I can ask for help. You're at center, you're at your highest frequency when you're living in the radically humble space that you're able to ask, do you know anyone that can help me? Look, if you're there and you really want to create change, It's one thing to bully. It's one thing to make people feel bad and to have anger and collective outrage. I get all of that, but you know you're in the right space when you can say, "Hey, can you help me? Do you know anyone that can help me? I really want to change the system. Do you know anyone else that can help us? Hey, let's change this thing." That's when you know that you're stop, dropping, and rolling. How do you unite people together? First way to unite people together is to create the change within yourself first. And it's the first way to unite people is to create the change within yourself first, and then allow the leadership to happen. Allow the time to take place to create the activity. The only way we unite is unite via our values: personal, experiential, giving, and receiving. Understanding unites us. Gratitude unites us. Forgiveness unites us. Accountability unites us. Inspiration is the effect of unification. What does that mean? Motivation moves us, it accelerates us, sometimes in the right direction, sometimes in the wrong direction, but it does create resistance. Inspiration, at its definition, in spirit, when we are inspired, we are connected to not only that great source of light, lessons, and love and power, but we're connected to everything else. That's unification. As anonymous, as a Black employee in a leadership role, if my white boss hasn't reached out to me, what should I do? Should I reach out or just ignore it? Well, it depends on what you want to do, right? Me, I'm reaching out to everybody asking, hey, can you teach me? Not how can I help? Hey, can you teach me what to do? Can you help me? I'm not asking how I can help you, right? I don't know how I can help you until you teach me and you help me, right? I personally am trying to reach out to as many people. That's why I did this. I'm answering these questions, but I'm really reaching out to all of you to teach me what this all means. And I'm going to go back and watch this, and I'm going to read the chat messages and see what lessons that I've learned and what people's perspective are. But reach out, ask, hey, can you help me? Right? I want to create change. I don't want this to happen anymore. I don't want this to happen again. Help me remember. And help me be inspired not to quit at 25% or 50%. Yes, Jordan, I know that's you, my friend. Michael Manning, how can one become a leader who inspires people instead of manipulating them in a business setting? So I have found to be a leader that I try to elevate others to elevate myself. I find one person to lead and teach them to lead others. And if I can teach one person to lead others, and then they'll teach people, and pretty soon I got 2 people, and then 4, then 8, then 16. So I usually use a segmentation in leadership of 20. I take the 1, turn it into 2, 4, 8, 16, and all the way out to 20 segments. Do the math. You end up in millions. You end up to be an inspired leader. Stay true to your values. As long as you're true to your values and you're forgiving for when you're not, which you will be, trust me. When you start taking inventories of your value, the hardest thing to realize is what a huge hypocrite you are. How many times a day you don't live by your values. Look, I'm first to admit, I've taught gratitude for years. It took me 9 months myself to simply say thank you. Literally 9 months just to simply say thank you every single day when I went to bed and when I woke up. 9 full months. It took me 3.5 years to read the Course of Miracles every day. I'm working on these things. I'm trying my best. We talked about how does one find their purpose? I used to work for income to provide for my daughters. Now they are grown, and I feel literally wake up, go to work, going through the motions 60 to 70 hours a week with nothing to work toward. Go ahead, make a board and work towards something. Find something that's aligned with your values. You still be your daughters, even though they're grown, right? Work towards something. Look, you have not responsibility. If you have the capability of receiving and you haven't picked to see where it comes through you for others, you're making a huge mistake. So go ahead, whether you write it down, find out what you want to go through you for who, because there's tons that is relative to you, and you can pick one aligned with your values: personal, experiential, giving, and receiving. Doesn't just stop if you worked for your daughters. You can still work through yourself for them or some other uh, bigger item than you. And you're making a big mistake if you're not working through yourself. uh, Please be inspired to do so. I don't want you to create interference. Man, you can't be poor enough to make people rich, but you can be rich enough to make and help other people. So please continue to work if you can with those capabilities to help others. Robert Huell, or Huey, sorry. In this age of easy, accessible information and knowledge, how do we keep ourselves from information overload? Seek it. This is an easy one. I really find this important for especially young people to know. You're seeking your information. You may think you're not, that you're just spanning through TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and the news is on behind you. You're seeking it. So be very specific about the information you want to seek. Try to find the most stable data that is aligned with what you want to learn. I personally, I look for the information that is not aligned, right? So if I know my values and there's a certain website that is aligned completely with my values, I'm trying to find websites or Instagram people that are not aligned with me at all because I want to learn why. I might actually change my mind. How can it be that somebody doesn't agree with myself? I want to know why. I want to see how their perspective is and what they're learning. So access and seek the information. Do not allow it to inundate you. Don't just allow it to come to you. Don't inundate yourself with the overload. Just seek what you want to know. You need to take inventory of your values in order to find that out. But be more interested than interesting. I spend 2 different sessions a day in my routine, what I call research time, right? I'm a student in my calendar, right? When I study something, when I access it, I pay attention to it, but I give it my intention. What do I think, say, do, believe, and take into consideration my own personality traits, characteristic obsessions, and addictions, my own DNA, my own quantum ancestral history that has come down for me, for my own being. But you got to be more interested than interesting, and you got to seek what you want and learn. Be more interested than interesting. Danny McGinnis, great podcast today to start off. Best workout music for me. Would you agree that these past several months have in fact brought people closer together and this will result in accelerated growth? Whether you think it is or whether you think it isn't, either way, you're right. In my life, these past several months have brought me closer together to so many people, to people within my organization, but most importantly, within my family. And all the people that are relative to me. So whether you think it is or whether you think it isn't, and that was one of my intentions that I study twice a day, was how can this bring me closer to everyone? So please seek that in your life, vote for that in your life, elect that into your life. This is the purpose of this Q&A session, is to bring us closer, not farther apart, and hopefully through understanding and openness and the ability to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to misspeak, to be misinterpreted and misunderstood. All of those exist right here. I know it. I'm fine with it. Please express your outrage towards anything that I've said so I can learn from it and allow me to learn from that pain. All lives matter. The people who only think Black Lives Matter are wrong. That's a statement, and I think at the core, that's a big separation of a lot of people. I think a lot of people that believe Black Lives Matter and that we shouldn't say all lives matter are saying that, of course, all lives matter, but we're not paying attention to and giving intention into Black lives. And can you please put a priority or importance on Black lives right now? Because there's these circumstances that have occurred for decades and decades that you may not be aware of. And I don't want people to dismiss what's going on because there's this universality of a unification of all lives mattering. And I see that, right? And I don't think I saw it as much as what I know now. And on the other side, the people that say all lives matter don't mean to offend you. because I think that people who say all lives matter are including Black lives, but not prioritizing them. And you want them to prioritize an injustice of a systematic ancestral injustice that's occurred and that needs to be corrected once and for all. We can't quit on this. So both are right. Let's instead understand so that we can bring the people who are saying all lives matter to prioritize Black lives, and the people that say Black lives matter, let's not create resistance to the people that are trying to help our cause. I hope that's a very dangerous, that's the deep end of a question. You didn't even put your name on it, and I got to suffer through that, and hopefully I help people. Just being honest and being as vulnerable as I can. How do I improve my public speaking skills? Practice, practice, practice. If you want to be a public speaker, you better practice. It's like the unbelievable thing that people think in sales. I was born with some sales skills, but I became a great salesperson because I practiced in the mirror. I practiced in my family. I practiced in an old 8mm camera on beta testing video. I practice today. I spend so much time practicing my public speaking skills still today. The only way to get better at anything is to enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, whatever it may be, including productive change. Let's practice creating change. Let's practice productivity. Let's practice being ferocious Buddhas and stop, dropping, and rolling. Let's practice understanding. Let's practice clearing the connection, not only between what inspires us, but between everybody in the world. How do I pinpoint my biggest challenges in my business? Do the math. You want to figure out the biggest challenges. You got to know your math of your business, know exactly where things are coming from. So look at the people involved, the resources involved, the math of the people, the math of the revenue, the math of the size and scope and scale of the business. Do the math. This is how we pinpoint, because in essence, the math of the business will show you where the biggest interferences, challenges, and risks exist to the resources, revenue, and employees in your business. Look and see what those are. Do the math. All right, last question. Lou Temple, please, before I finish up, remember, I will give everyone my free books. I will make myself available. Text me at 949-298-2905, david@dmeltzer.com, dmeltzer.com, and at David Meltzer. Lou Temple, David, you are at your best today. What do you think has given you this frequency today to reach this peak state that you are presenting? What did you do different this morning to be at your must be? I appreciate that. I will tell you more than ever, I practiced. I have been, people for a week, I've been slowly but surely presenting information to help, and got a little bit of slack early on because I wasn't as present because I was learning. But I was learning. I didn't want to present what I didn't know about. And so I practiced this. I did the world's greatest motivators. I had sessions with Blaine Bartlett and Reverend Beckwith and Warren Moon and all these people that I'm reaching out to say, give me your perspective. I want to learn all these things. Jen Welter as well, in all types of area of separation. And I practice. I'm the best that I can be. I meditated on it this morning, but it happened the minute this incident happened, the minute COVID happened. I continually am learning. I'm being more interested. I'm doing research every single day to try to find understanding, to help align people and to create less resistance so that we all can live a more productive life together in happiness. My mission in life is still the same. Over 1 billion people to be happy. And I want you to join me in that mission and coming to these free trainings every Friday. I hope it helps. Giving my free books away. Please reach out. Anything I can do, I will do. I'm a both person. And I appreciate that compliment. I appreciate everyone joining me. I am asking you for your gratitude, for forgiveness, for your accountability, and for your inspiration. I want to make sure that I have done my best to present these things and answer the questions to help you. Please work with me, not against me. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. We will catch you next Friday, reinventing yourself, starting over. Let's do it together. Do not quit. Don't be the 1% that quits after 50%. Be the 1% of the 1%. Let's create change together. This is a lifetime journey. This is a lifetime mission. Let's stick to it. Use your capabilities, effectuate the change that we want within us. Thank you so much. Love you all. Peace. Be kind to your future self. Do good deeds.